Never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined that I've created something close to evergreen content that would be watched this late after its release. But I have to say, thanks to all of you, whether you endured with me in my overdramatic ways of narration or enjoyed my in-depth discussion of narcissism. I certainly didn't expect my video to be watched and liked by so many. Pleasantly surprised, and I'm not lying when I'm saying that I aimed for 100 views when the video originally released, almost 2 years ago, and it now being at more than 35 times my expectation. I can confidently state I'm more than satisfied, albeit with some slight creative differences with my past self, which I'm going to discuss in this part. After the upload, I kind of just got up and left. Creating that video exhausted me to some degree, but now I've effectively broken my own promise, like I said in the beginning, of not talking about DSP anymore, just to give some more information that I feel like I missed or some things that have changed in my opinion over the course of this video being out. But first, the feedback has been favorable, which I'm very happy with. I definitely expected more people to disagree with me on the merit of me pre-selecting the indicators I myself deem common with narcissism. I would have expected a lot of people to actually say that I cherry-picked too well, and that's why narcissism fits so well on DSP, but instead, many of you have been reinforcing and actually agreeing with my suspicions. Like I said before, maybe that's because I cherry-picked too well, or maybe that's because DSP actually is that kind of narcissist I make him out to be. I'm still unhappy with the length of the video though. 3 hours 24 minutes, that's too long, even for me. I feel it should have at least been shortened to like 2 hours and 30 minutes. It could have been shortened in the introduction. I kind of started going back to the Big Bang and started from there, and it's like that's too much. 50% power, not 100%. Definitely didn't need to start at childhood years and how children develop narcissism and grow out of it. Could have been a side note, definitely too long. Also that I feel there was too much discussion on redundant topics. Example was the dark triad discussion. Should have been also another side note. You don't need the dark triad to know what narcissism is. You need the dark triad to discern narcissism from other concepts close to it. I felt it was important back then. Nowadays, I'm like, you can look this up for yourself. There's a lot of people, a lot of good videos on the dark triad and how these traits interact with each other. Also, when it comes to the handpicked behaviors list, the traits, the 25 traits in part 2, I feel like I should have shortened these too, since at least 5 of these feel very circumstantial or the point wasn't getting over very well. 20 at most should have been the number. I definitely feel that I've gone overboard in that department. Talking about narcissistic personality traits, I definitely feel different about the part of DSP feeling special these days. Him trying to appear modest by saying, I don't feel myself as anyone special. Newsflash, that's a front he puts up to align with social desirability. The thing that really matters is how he acts, and I should have clearly seen that he acts like someone who thinks he's special with his arrogant mannerisms. The best example of that in recent days I can think of is the whole Burger King sandwich thing that he still talks about to some degree, not always. I feel like, I don't want to lie here, but I think even 3 months after that he still brought it up. I also feel that I really overdid it on my narration part. The thing is, you definitely notice I wrote a script when it came to that video, and I tend to get into a zone. I think I wanted to go for the audiobook approach, where I make this interesting. And then at the same time, the raspy narrator voice is something that I feel like I can do well, but not a lot of people have given me some feedback on my narration style. I want to test the waters with a more free style of speaking, like in this video where I only type down bullet points and go off of that and just let my mind run off its course. Maybe you're more into that, or maybe you like the narration style. Please tell me, give me feedback. Maybe it'll sound more natural in the end. You guys tell me. Last point, there was some profanity towards the end of the video that I'm certainly not okay with. It came out of nowhere, especially because I tried to stay professional the entire time, but suddenly when it comes to my personal opinions, I started to use the word fucking like 3 times, and it came completely out of left field. And what can I say other than I won't excuse myself, but the script has went through multiple rewrites. I guess I grew somewhat sour to the end because I felt like there was no hope for DSP, and I felt frustrated because I have the answer, but I still didn't solve the equation. I don't know if you can understand me at that point, but let's move on. My video effectively kickstarted a lot of discussion whether or not DSP is actually a covert versus an overt narcissist. That's kind of the point, but the key takeaway of that video was supposed to be that he's a narcissist, and I'm sorry that I made it out to be like I was super hyper-focused on trying to convince you that he's actually 100% a covert narcissist. And that opinion has kind of relaxed these days. I think he's more parts grandiose and parts vulnerable. To my defense, I have to say, they're not mutually exclusive. I stand by what I said in the video. They run on a continuum, and he sometimes appear more grandiose and sometimes more vulnerable. Narcissists generally oscillate between two subtypes. They're not 100% vulnerable or 100% grandiose all the time. They have both parts. Sometimes it's even dependent on the mood of the day. Sometimes they feel more a bit victimized, sometimes they feel more braggy. Generally, the general rule of thumb, I think, is that when things go well for the narcissist, they become more grandiose. When things go more badly for them, they become rather vulnerable. Kind of like an adaptive coping mechanism, if you will. So many have also issues with the term covert narcissism, and I have to agree, it's somewhat misleading. Covert in this sense doesn't mean though that the narcissism within DSP is hidden or that DSP is somehow sly and not showing his narcissism. That's not what I'm trying to say. It means it's directed inwards. And I should have defaulted to calling it vulnerable narcissism, as many pointed out, because it has a better association with it. And vulnerable means that he is more affected by criticism, meaning he is more hypersensitive to criticism. But even discussion outside of the comment section was sparked, which I followed with much interest. After I've talked to some people and heard other opinions, I'd say, like I said, he's equal parts now. Because there's definitely clear indicators of grandiose narcissism within him. There's the excessive bragging, he tries to be flashy, and he's trying to generate buzz around himself, even though I'm saying he's not partaking in drama, he's actively partaking in drama, so there you go, that's what grandiose narcissists do. Sadly, and here comes to the first real change of the original video, I can't change the content of the video. I would rather discuss more grandiose parts of narcissism when it relates to DSP, but what I can do is I'm going to change the title of the video from "Is DSP a covert narcissist?" to an in-depth discussion of DSP's narcissism. That will hopefully more accurately present what I try to achieve in the video. At the same time, of course, I kind of brought this onto myself because I'm being just too detailed in my script. And a lot gets repeated because of that, and you may not even notice it, but I explain abductive reasoning like 3 times throughout the video, and I was cringing hard when I explained it for the 3rd time. I'm like, dude, I'm effectively doing the same repetition thing that DSP is doing to his viewers. Like, I'm trying to wear you down, but that just destroys your attention and diminishes you. It's so condescending, and I guess I overlooked it. It's also an issue within me because I always feel that people misunderstand me or don't get what I'm saying, so I'm defaulting to repetition, which can be annoying, so I'm very sorry for that. The goal of the video though was to share something to think about and try to itemize, effectively put the finger on something what so many threw around as just an umbrella term. Oh, DSP is a narcissist. Yeah, okay, but what does it mean to be a narcissist? And there's also still a lot of misunderstanding, so I wanted to see if others would agree that DSP actually fits the bill of what we just say, well, what narcissist or what we believe narcissists to be, or what very common traits of narcissism would be. So I really hope you learned something new about narcissism and you didn't know before, or something that made you question some things you heard about narcissism before. By the way, and this is very important, don't let my video influence you too much. I'm not the to-go source. When it comes to narcissism, I'm not some kind of expert. Certainly don't proclaim myself to be an expert. Look things up for yourself, research for yourself, come to your own conclusions. Let my video be something of a starting point of a journey if you want. You can also just fully trust me, rely on me if you want that, but that's dangerous. Don't do that. I've noticed a lot of people also bringing up the question whether or not a narcissist is actually evil, and I have to say, a great question that I'd also like to answer. In my opinion, the common narcissist, the common household narcissist, if you will, is as evil as a raging fire or a tornado. Like I already mentioned in the video, it's a force of nature, hurting you indistinguishably and without care. It's not like they plan to hurt people, there's definitely malicious intent behind their actions. I feel it's all to convince themselves, not others. With a takeaway, obviously, that they can fake it until they make it. It all comes down to that lack of empathy. A narcissist doesn't care enough about others to even recognize that they've hurt someone, and I'd say it's more recklessness than clear evil intent. Exception to that rule is the malignant narcissist, of course, which, shout out to, Steve of the Dead has brought up a lot recently. A malignant narcissist would be someone who is more aligned with a sadist, and thus definitely evil in my opinion. That's someone who enjoys making others suffer, and they're closer to psychopathy than I'd like DSP believed to be, so that wouldn't make a lot of sense. You can look this up for yourself if you want, because I've done enough lecturing you about narcissistic subtypes at this point. Lastly, you might find it extremely fitting to know that addictive behaviors are strongly linked to narcissism. Yes! Who could have guessed? Especially vulnerable narcissism. After the release of my video, many of you witnessed the glorious bank leaks that pretty much confirmed what many detractors already knew, that DSP is allegedly spending a lot of money on booze and gambling. Mobile gambling, that is. Narcissism fits perfectly into that, as the vulnerable subtype is highly prone to feelings of shame or unrecognized greatness, as I so greatly discussed. So they tend to drink themselves into a stupor, unable to recognize their problems. And that goes the same with non-substance addictions. It basically exists to fill the void of the world denying them the greatness. Now, on a virtual leaderboard, where only fools with loose wallets can rise to the top, DSP can get the recognition he craves so much. And the ignorant bystanders continue to happily enable him while they themselves struggle with unemployment or homelessness. It's a looking glass world, and I've stopped to wonder why. DSP desperately needs help, but you can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves. It's definitely an interesting feeling to have so many people discuss a topic with you, or simply watching a video and commenting on it, to the point where this wants you to keep going. You guys managed to motivate me to do more videos, which I might do in the future. Hey, that's something. I'm going to tell you, I've had long time plans to make a comprehensive side-by-side video on the Rambo and Howard breakup story, with the original videos from DSP they reference in their final broadcast, and maybe a small analysis of it in regards to DSP's narcissism, since he loves to misrepresent what actually happened. I had this idea ever since I started writing the script on it, and I got sidetracked and looked up the original quotes they were referencing in their 1-hour podcast, I think. And lo and behold, you can actually find the videos. And I aim to get the entire back and forth into a nearly complete context, so that we can get newcomers up to speed, as well as offer a well of knowledge that doesn't require too much trust in what Rambo and Howard say, not that there's nothing trustworthy to begin with, but rather so you don't have to research it for yourself. Call it a one-stop bookmark to be instantly in the know about what went down, and also offer maybe some new insights into DSP's narcissism in that kind of situation. This is where you come in, so let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in something like that, or tell me why I shouldn't do it or how I should do it. Give me feedback, I want it. Before I go though, special shout out to Steve of the Dead for effectively carrying the torch and doing a much better job than me when it comes to analyzing DSP's behavior. I know how tiresome it is, I know how draining it can be. You are doing a great job, keep it up. But you really need to cut down on the lengths of the videos, man. You are worse than me. Sending you much love and happiness. Another special shout out to Meerkat, who recently restreamed my video, which all of you are fine to do so if you wish, and got me some newfound attention. Lots of love to all of you. I absolutely enjoyed your reactions, and keep those baller alerts coming, Meerkat. I'll continue to answer any questions you might have, but I feel that I've effectively given you the toolset to dismantle DSP's false ego and his dysfunctional behavior. So use it well to see past the tricks he will inevitably pull. Last but certainly not least, thank you everyone who watched the video and left a comment. Your input is greatly appreciated, and I do read every comment of yours, but don't always respond to every single one. Feedback or questions are appreciated, like I said, and I hope you'll always try to be the best version of yourselves. Take care out there.
This one's for all my baby girls.
I'll be the guy on level 1. I streamed myself masturbating. I'll be the guy. Fuck life. I'll be the for the thousands of children. I'll be the guy on level 1.
You're still on mission 1.
I'll be the guy on level 1. Level 1. Married happily, paycheck to paycheck happily, meaningful relationship, meaningful life.